Mr. President, earlier this year you told us you had ordered your administration to cease and desist on payments to journalists to promote your agenda. You cited the need for ethical concerns and the need for a bright line between the press and the government. Your administration continues to make the use of video news releases, which are prepackaged news stories sent to television stations, fully aware that some or many of these stations will air them without any disclaimer that they are produced by the government. Comptroller General of the United States this week said that raises ethical questions. Does it raise ethical questions about the use of government money to produce stories about the government that wind up being aired with no disclosure that they were produced by the government?
There is a Justice Department opinion that says these pieces are within the law so long as they're based upon facts, not advocacy. And I expect our agencies to adhere to that ruling, to that Justice Department opinion. This has been a long-standing practice of the federal government to use these types of videos. Agricultural Department, as I understand, has been using these videos for a long period of time. The Defense Department, other departments have been doing so. It's important that they be based upon the guidelines set out by the Justice Department. Now, I think it'd be helpful if local stations then disclose to their viewers if that's, that this was based upon a factual report and they chose to use it. But evidently in some cases that's not the case. So anyway.
To guarantee that's happening by including that language in the prepackaged report.
Yeah, I don't, look, oh, you mean a disclosure? I'm George W. Bush and I...
Well, some way to make sure it couldn't air without the disclosure that you believe is so vital.
Ken, I mean, there's a procedure that we're going to follow, and the local stations ought to, if there's a deep concern about that, ought to tell their viewers what they're watching.
This is what it looks like when the government and the mainstream news collaborate to brainwash people. Watch this.
Be cautious while looking for health information in the Twitterverse.
Be extra cautious while looking for health information in the Twitterverse.
Be extra cautious while looking for health information in the Twitterverse.
Be extra cautious while looking for health information in the Twitterverse.
Be extra cautious while looking for health information on the Twitterverse.
Be extra cautious while looking for health information on the Twitterverse.
Be extra cautious while looking for health information in the Twitterverse.
Be extra cautious while looking for health information on Twitter.
Be extra cautious while looking at health information on Twitter.
Be extra cautious while looking for health information on Twitter.
Be extra cautious while looking for health information on Twitter.
Be extra cautious while you're looking for health information on Twitter.
Be extra cautious while looking for health information on Twitter.
If you're too stupid to understand what that means, let me break it down for you. Basically, there is pre-scripted scripts sent out by the government to these mainstream media outlets, mainly leftist ones, and they just read from the script. They just read from the script that the government produced. This is literal government propaganda. Everything the left wing talks about is literal government propaganda. It's not even factual. It's just what the government wants you to think. It's media manipulation. Look at this. This is what media manipulation looks like. Here is Greta Thunberg, a 19-year-old high school dropout, not a scientist, reads from a script produced by, who knows, could have government ties, gets 24/7 media coverage. Here is Dr. Judith Curry, a professional in climate change, not a high school dropout, and is a scientist. She's a climatologist, has published over 140 scientific books, says it's all a hoax, gets no media coverage. Let's dive into what Dr. Judith Curry has to say, because we never get to hear what she has to say. So let's listen to what she has to say, and then we'll listen to the one that we've heard a lot from, Thunberg, and then we'll analyze and make a statement or two.
So it's almost like climate change is real, but let's not talk about fossil fuel burning and the impact on greenhouse gases on what it does to all this.
Okay, the confusion is this. Scientifically, the term climate change means a changing climate, and it's changed for, the past 4 billion years or so. Okay, this whole issue of human-caused climate change is a relatively recent notion. So climate is always changing, and it's going to change in the future. The issue is how much of the change is caused by humans. We don't know. We don't know what the 21st century holds. The climate change may be really unpleasant, and that may happen independently of anything that humans do. My point is that we don't know how much humans are influencing climate and whether it's going to dominate in the 21st century. Given that we don't know this, we are still going to see extreme weather events, whether or not humans are influencing the climate. This is what I'm talking about, that we really don't know how the 21st century climate is going to play out, and we should figure out how to reduce our vulnerability to whatever might happen. And that includes extreme weather events that are going to happen regardless of whether humans are influencing climate change. So maybe that clarifies my testimony.
A little, but not much. I mean, all science is contingent. We continue to learn. We must be humble at all times about what we know. Yeah. But it seems to me very much sticking our head in the sand to look at all the evidence of what has happened with global warming in the last 30 years. By the way, the debate over whether it's 2004 or 2009 or 2014 is the warmest year seems silly when 10 of the last...
Okay, the climate has been warming since the 1700s, okay, since we came out of the Little Ice Age. We don't know what's causing that warming in the 18th century, in the 19th century. It's not attributed to humans. So there are other things going on in the climate system that have been contributing to a warming over several centuries. We can't blame all of this on humans, okay? And we don't know how all this is going to play out in the 21st century. We just don't know.
We just had a vice president who was willing to argue for enhanced interrogation and torture on the 1% chance that al-Qaeda might someday get a nuclear weapon. And are we going to do nothing because there's a greater than 1% chance that climate change?
Okay, there is nothing in my testimony that said we do nothing. I'm saying that what is being proposed is ineffective. It's not going to do anything. Even if the U.S. is successful at meeting 80% reductions by 2050, this is going to reduce warming by about 1/10 of a degree centigrade. It's not going to do anything. So I'm saying we need to acknowledge that and rethink how we're going to deal with the risks from future climate change, whether it's caused by human or natural processes. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you, Dr. very much.
I thank the chairman and the committee for the opportunity to offer testimony on this important topic. Prior to 2010, I felt that supporting the IPCC consensus on human-caused climate change was the responsible thing to do. That all changed for me in November 2009 following the leaked ClimateGate emails that illustrated the sausage-making and even bullying that went into building that consensus. I came to the growing realization that I had fallen into the trap of groupthink in supporting the IPCC consensus. I began making an independent assessment of topics in climate science that had the most relevance to policy. I concluded that the high confidence of the IPCC's conclusions were not justified and that there were substantial uncertainties in our understanding of how the climate system works. I realized that the premature consensus on human-caused climate change was harming scientific progress because of the questions that don't get asked and the investigations that aren't made. We therefore lack the kinds of information to more broadly understand climate variability and societal vulnerabilities. As a result of my analyses that challenged the IPCC consensus, I have been publicly called a serial climate disinformer, anti-science, and a denier by a prominent climate scientist. I've been publicly called a denier by a U.S. senator. My motives have been questioned by a U.S. congressman in a letter sent to the president of Georgia Tech. While there is much noise in the media and blogosphere and professional advocacy groups, I'm mostly concerned about the behavior of other scientists. A scientist's job is to continually challenge their own biases and ask, how could I be wrong? Scientists who demonize their opponents are behaving in a way that is antithetical to the scientific process. These are the tactics of enforcing a premature theory for political purpose. There is enormous pressure for climate scientists to conform to the so-called consensus. This pressure comes from federal funding agencies, universities, and professional societies and scientists themselves. Reinforcing this consensus are strong monetary, reputational, and authority interests. Owing to these pressures and the gutter tactics of the academic debate on climate change, I recently resigned my tenured faculty position at Georgia Tech. There's disagreement about the appropriate logical framework for linking and assessing the evidence, and scientists disagree over assessment of areas of ambiguity and ignorance. Policymakers bear the responsibility of the mandate that they give to panels of scientific experts. In the case of climate change, the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change framed the problem too narrowly. This narrow framing of the climate change problem essentially preordained the conclusions from the IPCC assessment process. There are much better ways to assess science for policymakers than a consensus-seeking process that serves to stifle disagreement and debate. Expert panels with diverse perspectives should handle controversies and uncertainties by assessing what we know, what we don't know, and where the major areas of disagreement and uncertainties lie. Let's make scientific debate about climate change great again. This concludes my testimony.
Thank you.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean.
What did you do after the speech was successful and it went viral? Oh yeah, you dropped out of high school. So don't sit there and act like you wanted to go to school. You're doing this to get out of school. You're not looking for an education at all. You're looking to just tell people what to do with no education whatsoever.
Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones.
You're telling people to trust the government. The government has put the American citizen $40 trillion in debt for national debt. That's about $100,000 per individual in the United States of America, man, woman, and child. Every single one of them owes $100,000. But you're saying spend more. You're saying spend more on climate change. To fix what? You think the government could change the weather? It can't even balance a budget. Even if the government did have the power to change the weather like they claim, which they absolutely don't, but if they did somehow have magical powers and could change the weather, and they did everything they promised, they would only change the weather 1/10 of a degree centigrade. That's on track of what they promised, and that won't do shit. That won't save you. So is it really worth enslaving the entire world to debt for that? I don't think so. I think this is all to usher in a moneyless society, communism, or at the very least socialism. America was the richest country in the world because of fossil fuels, and America is obviously very capitalist compared to other countries, and they didn't want capitalist countries to thrive because the other countries and the world will follow suit. So they wanted to make a bad example of it. So they're trying to bust our economy. And they're going to bust the economy by moving us off fossil fuels in the name of climate change. And YouTube knows I'm going to be talking about this. They know everybody's talking about this because it's true. It's plain to see. It's not even a conspiracy anymore. I mean, you hear these people claiming that they want a new world order. Like, even Biden has said it. But if I talk about that, they flag that for a conspiracy as well, New World Order.
60 million people died between 1900 and 1946. And since then, we established a liberal world order, and that hadn't happened in a long while. A lot of people died, but nowhere near the chaos. And now is the time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it.
And hopefully this video doesn't get striked, but it might, because most of my videos talk about these subjects get striked. These type of videos are forbidden now. They are hated. I can make like 4 videos on top of my head that'll get me banned from YouTube. It's fucking crazy. I will get banned if I make them. And there's nothing racist or sexist or rude about it. It's against the narrative. And I'm supposed to have freedom of speech, but apparently I don't have it, especially on YouTube. Hell, I mean, Alex Jones said some things and he got sued for $1 billion. Not just that, they're trying to sue him for $1 trillion now. So, Jesus Christ, what has happened to this country? Not that long ago, Elon Musk exposed to us all that Twitter and YouTube and Wikipedia and Facebook and Reddit and all these big social media websites, they're being controlled by government. They literally have FBI agents working there, and this was proven. The emails are out. And not just that, they paid millions upon millions of dollars to censor people that are telling the truth, making them look like they're lying, making them look like they're telling false information when they're not, when everything they're saying is actually 100% factual.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction.
Source.
And all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
If you don't think this is the most blatant of propaganda, look at this.
And I think that the part of it that is generational is that millennials and people and Gen Z and all these folks that come after us are looking up, and we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it? And like, this is the war. This is our World War II. And
yeah, don't listen to the scientists, people. That's being censored, right? Listen to the fucking high school dropout and the fucking bartender. That's my video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Later.